So this week we watched as Ireland voted to repeal the Eighth Amendment, and I think that for a lot of us, on the side of life, it was a very hard thing to watch. This was a country that got it, that understood human dignity and understood that we need to protect the weakest and most vulnerable members of a human family. And they literally voted to strip those weak and vulnerable members of their rights. That's hard. I will say one of the things, though, that as I'm kind of pouring through my newsfeed and on social media that I keep seeing come up is the fact that, people are so disturbed by the women that they're seeing who are celebrating this. The ones who worked on the repeal campaign and, they're out in the streets hugging each other and, cheering, and they're so happy. And I get it. It breaks my heart to see people cheering for violence, for the opportunity to use violence against not only human beings, weak and vulnerable human beings, but their own children. Like, that's a very, very hard thing to see. But I do want to add a little bit of perspective, because I feel like through my involvement in the pro-life movement, I've had the opportunity to work with so many amazing women who are post-abortive, and many of them obviously now are on the pro-life side, but for a long time they weren't. And so I've heard their stories, and I've listened to them as they talked about like what that journey looked like, what it looked like for them to process their own abortion. It's not as cut and dry as I think a lot of people want to make it. It's a very nuanced issue, and I think that a majority of women who have abortions, they know what it is, if they don't, a lot of times it's because they don't want to know. They don't want to know fetal development, because they know that if they have these facts and this information, that might change their ability to go through with an abortion, right? But most of them do know, and they still make that choice. And there's a mixture of emotions that come from that. There's the initial relief that you're not pregnant anymore. I mean, that's just a reality. But then over time, when they process what exactly that was, or even if they end up having a subsequent pregnancy and seeing that sonogram, and now suddenly there is a heartbeat and fingers and toes, and they're so excited over the fetal development of this wanted child, it brings back a lot of memories from those past, the past abortion or abortions. And so just knowing that, and knowing these women, knowing their stories, knowing where they're coming from, I think I put that filter on when I look at the women who are cheering in the streets of Ireland this week. I know that many of them are likely post-abortive or very close to someone who is, whether it was their mother or sister or best friend. Most people know someone who has had an abortion. They know how difficult that decision was. And I think for them, having your country then say, it's not that big of a deal. It's okay. Here, you can do it. That adds validation, especially when you're kind of in the middle and you're on the fence and you're thinking, is this the taking of a human life? I don't know, because I really want to believe it's just a clump of cells. I really want to believe that abortion is just, like getting your wisdom teeth out or having an appendectomy. And I think when they're on that emotional divide, and they're trying to process it themselves, for your nation then to come behind you and say, yeah, we've decided it's okay. Could you imagine the relief? The relief that suddenly, like, okay, I was worried it was a human being, but no, it's not. I think that's where that cheering comes from. I think it comes from post-abortive women wanting to validate a choice that they made, because the reality is it's either nothing or it's murdering our children. There is no in between. And I think most people realize that. And because the thought that this could be taking the life, again, not just of weak and vulnerable human beings, but our own children, is so incredibly horrifying. We want to believe the alternative's true so badly. And anytime our culture, affirms that and stands up in agreement that it is just a clump of cells, imagine the massive amount of relief you feel. But at the end of the day, we know the truth. I mean, science has told us the truth. We know that this is a human being. We know that by the gestational stage that most abortions happen, it doesn't even look like a clump of cells anymore. We know that there's a heartbeat present. We know that there's a completely unique genetic DNA strand, that this is its own individual, that a lot of times even the gender is present by the point of an abortion. So we know all of this. And unfortunately now, so many more women are going to get to experience the reality of it. They're going to have to keep lying to themselves and buying into the lie that culture is telling them that it's not a baby. Because if we accept the reality that it is, it's absolutely horrifying what we have done in this world.